2, 1.
7 things you probably didn't know you need to know. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Smart 7.
Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, the 19th of May, and it's International Accounting Day. And a big happy birthday to Sam Smith, Grace Jones, Pete Townsend, and Jojo Siwa. The inflation rate in the UK has now hit 9%. That's the highest level since 1982, and Chancellor Rishi Sunak warned businesses on Wednesday that the next few months will be tough. The rising prices and the government's reluctance to introduce either an emergency budget or a windfall tax on energy companies were hot topics at Prime Minister's Question Time. Boris was firmly focused on the positive figures.
Of course, we will look at all sensible measures, Mr. Speaker, but we will be driven by considerations of growth, investment and employment. And I just remind you, Mr. Speaker, that unemployment's now hit a record low, or for 50 years, I should say.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer says the government's going to have to act and that the continued delay in doing so is unforgivable.
Doesn't he see that every single day he delays his inevitable U-turn? He's going to do it. He's choosing to let people struggle when they don't need to.
Then, rather than explain his rationale for refusing to implement a windfall tax, Boris turned to a transphobic jibe instead.
I just remind the House that the right honourable gentleman struggled to define what a woman was. So he couldn't make up his mind on that point, Mr. Speaker. Heaven help us.
Russia's Ministry of Defence now says almost 1,000 Ukrainian fighters have surrendered at the Mariupol steel plant. It remains unclear how many are left on site or what the fate will be of those who have surrendered. Meanwhile, the first war crime trial of a Russian soldier began in Kyiv as 21-year-old tank commander Vadim Shishimarin pled guilty to shooting an unarmed civilian on the 28th of February. The EU's focused on support for the Ukraine and its economy with a new package introduced by EU President Ursula von der Leyen as part of a plan to provide energy security and end reliance on Russian fossil fuels.
We are proposing for Ukraine to top up the significant short-term relief provided until now with a new exceptional macrofinancial assistance to Ukraine of up to 9 billion euros in 2022.
There was a focus too on the disruption that Russia's war and the deliberate blockade of the port city of Odessa is having across the world, as US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says there's a real risk of global food issues.
Russia's war against Ukraine has exacerbated the issue of food security for people around the world, particularly in emerging and developing countries. I'm deeply concerned by how this is unfolding.
There was more bad news on climate change on Wednesday with a new report from the World Meteorological Organization. 4 key climate change indicators broke records in 2021 according to the WMO, and not in a good way. Last year saw greenhouse gases, ocean temperatures, ocean acidification and sea level rises all at new record highs. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres continues to sound the alarm on the need for urgent action.
We know what to do. The Working Group 3 report from IPCC makes very, very clear that we have all the tools we need to reduce emissions by half by 2030 and to get to net zero potentially by 2050. That gives us an even money's chance of limiting warming to about 1.5 degrees by the end of the century.
And Professor Pete Thorne of Maynooth University says we've all got the tools to fix the situation, but it needs political will to start taking drastic action.
The global energy system is broken and bringing us ever closer to climate catastrophe. Fossil fuels are a dead end, environmentally and economically. The war in Ukraine and its immediate effects on energy prices is yet another wake-up call. The only sustainable future is a renewable one.
The libel trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard continues in Virginia. Both Johnny and Amber have finished their evidence, and Amber struggled through a lengthy cross-examination. There was more testimony from Amber's friends and relatives in support of her claims of abuse on Wednesday, with video depositions and testimony from her sister and from her friend Rachel Pennington, who said the whole relationship was toxic.
I was scared for Amber. I was sad for her, and I was also sad for Johnny, because he is my friend too.
Still to come on the Smart 7, Dr. Swift will see you now, and it's heartbreak for Rangers in Seville. Right after this. Welcome back.
3,
Wednesday night saw the Europa League final as Scotland's Rangers faced Germany's Eintracht Frankfurt in Seville. The stadium only holds 42,000 people, but it appeared over 100,000 fans had travelled to Spain for the game. Police reported clashes between fans before the match even began. On the pitch it was 1-1 after normal time and then after extra time, so the game went to penalties with Eintracht Frankfurt winning 5-4. Rangers manager Giovanni van Bronckhorst was disappointed, but looking forward to Saturday's Scottish Cup final.
We came so far, we deserved it. So I'm very proud of them because we had to have challenges with injuries and, a lot of games to be played, but we always gave everything today as well.
There's a brand new doctor in the house. It's Dr. Taylor Swift. Yep, she's not a medical doctor in case you were thinking of showing her your rash, but she did receive an honorary doctorate in fine arts from New York University. She joked that she was 90% sure she was only asked to attend because she had a song called 22. She spoke too about the best way to approach life.
Life can be heavy, especially if you try to carry it all at once. Part of growing up and moving into new chapters of your life is about catch and release. What I mean by that is knowing what things to keep and what things to release. You can't carry all things.
There's a brand new Marvel series on the way, and this one looks quite different to anything we've seen before. It's a comedy called She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and it stars Tatiana Maslany alongside Mark Ruffalo, Tim Roth and Jamila Jamil. It tells the story of Jennifer Walters, a lawyer who specialises in cases involving superhumans, and she herself can transform like her cousin Bruce Banner. It hits Disney Plus on August the 17th.
You could be an Avenger. Oh, I'm not a superhero. That is for billionaires and narcissists and adult orphans for some reason.
This has been The Smart 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Have a great day. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.